Now that the disc golf offseason is officially over, we gotta grade how every manufacturer did. What's up, Disgenerates? I'm Jefferson, and alongside me, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. Before we can get into the grading, big shout out to everyone supporting over on Patreon. You guys are the reason we're going to Europe for the World Championships this year, so thank you. And if you haven't already, check it out for more unfiltered disc golf content. Without further ado, Swiss, hit the people with the first grade.
Let's just get it out of the way now, because it's not like you haven't heard their name attached to nearly every big free agent possible this year, absolutely stealing the show and the talk for just about the entire offseason. You had pockets of other big signings, but they didn't last the buzz that surrounded Discraft, forming what has to be considered the overall best pro lineup in the sport currently. When you begin to garner fatigue or flat out hate with just how good your offseason signings and teams are, you're not only doing something right, but you are also just winning. Certainly deserving nothing less than an A+ here. Discraft came out of the gates early with them announcing a 3-year deal with Anthony Barella. And though everyone expected the young superstar to re-up, he was still one of, if not the top free agent on the market. A top 10 in the world who is coming off his best season of his career. And that's not mentioning he is one of the most marketable disc golfers also. To lock him down on a multi-year deal will pay dividends for the brand for years to come. That and those multi-year deals didn't dry up like most other manufacturers this winter, signing another rising talent in Ezra Robinson to a 2-year deal. He may not have gotten that signature win as of yet, still finished in the top 10 in Disc Golf Pro Tour points, while also knocking on the door of the top 10 in the world's ranking at number 11. They also locked in every one of their former team free agents also. We're talking former world champions, major winners, and Elite Series victors. Yes, their elite team may have shifted with players being downgraded, but didn't see any of their free agents leave for another manufacturer. Something that no other brand can say also. Signed big-name veterans in Kale Laviska. And we can't forget they attached themselves to the newly available Ken Climo, only the most decorated disc golfer of all time. Then, when the rest of the community, not us, but the rest of the community just about thought they might be finished, snagged the second best player in the world in 2-time world champion Ricky Wysocki from the scrapyard that was Dynamic, locking him to a 3-year deal also. Listen, when your offseason can be debated as one of the best ever in the sport, A+ is simply the grade.
Started out with the best grade, it only makes sense to follow it up with the worst. And honestly, I have no shame in giving a Timmy Turner-sized F to Lone Star after doing literally nothing this entire offseason. Wait, maybe that's not fair since they did decide to drop everyone. Besides Freddie Meza, that is. It's not like they just didn't re-sign players either, because if you forgot, Nico LaCastro was signed through 2025. But it seems like he's out of those oil fields. And last I heard, his molds have moseyed their way to a different manufacturer. When you do absolutely nothing, you get an F. I learned that one in college. Latitude 64 came out with a 2-time world champ. Hard for me to talk down on that. I like the pickup because I believe their marketing fits Isaac Robinson more than any other brand. Allow Jonathan to be the goofy, in-your-face character on social media and pair him with a more stoic champion. Or who knows, because when you have a company that actually understands the importance of promoting their players, the possibilities are endless. This also will increase both's perception on the community. Look at the content they've already created and the impact it's had. They dropped the most viewed announcement video after all, so don't give me any of that nonsense of you can't market this guy. Wrong. You can. They just have to put some effort into it. Something his old sponsor would not do. Picking up Isaac clearly was the big move of the offseason, but that wasn't the only thing they did. Re-signing Jakub Semerad, who's coming off his best season yet, and Rebecca Cox, who also had a better last year. The only drop from the squad was snubbed comeback player of the year Kevin Kiefer III, who came back in just 5 months after tearing his ACL. Why not throw your boy a salary, Latitude? Just for that, we're going to have to give you a solid B.
When your offseason is highlighted more by the names you lost to other brands than those that you signed, you must know the criticisms will follow. Now, add the departure of a multi-world champion, new leadership that has pivoted the brand to being more business-minded, equating to less of a focus and fewer sponsored pros. That, along with following Jefferson's Latitude cut, it might have you believing I'm about to hit on Prodigy here. Instead, I'm talking about the power player in the sport, Innova, whose offseason has left many questioning how the major manufacturer in our sport wasn't far more active this offseason. Certainly didn't put to rest the perception of them being cheap either. I know there will be plenty of people still praising them for not buying into the COVID hype, but this continued departure of big names seemingly year after year now adds up, especially when you're not really replacing them with new ones. Gone are the ambassadors of the game in Jeremy Colling and perceived lifer Ken Climo, arguably the greatest ever and possibly the biggest shock this offseason. That's not all, though. Joel Freeman and Haley King, both former star players, are no longer with the brand either. The Emily Weatherman signing did bring some excitement. The rookie did get an Elite Series win on her first tour, and does strengthen their FPO squad even further. But that's it, as far as available free agents. You had the two-time world champion and his brother, both enticing targets, along with Ricky, who joined the market late also. That, and there was plenty of fiscally responsible options also in Cole Radalin and others. Add that all your signings were only one-year deals on top, despite having players who are deserving of multi-year deals like Own after her 2024 season, is not the greatest look for the largest brand in the sport. No matter the comments about them leading in sales, these offseason moves are not those of a major player in the game, and for that matter, a C- grade. And since I already mentioned them, let's get into Prodigy while we're at it, who is heading into the season after Gannon's departure and already anticipated to lose at the very least Isaac and possibly Ezra Robinson also. As the season carried on, that future became far more evident from a likely possibility to a certainty. Most with any knowledge in the game knew that both would be departing by the Midwest swing. What wasn't on most people's bingo card was the longtime sponsor and partial owner Kayla Viska leaving the brand, and what was a huge hit to Prodigy. And at that point in the offseason, Prodigy had become the butt of most jokes, plenty coming from this channel, as the likelihood of them fielding anything resembling a pro lineup seemed very unlikely, as it looked as though they would simply rock with Luke Humphreys and Chantel Budinsky, as Aiden Scott left also. However, this company has seen plenty of promising players depart the brand, and like I mentioned, most knew there was no chance of signing Isaac before his second Worlds, certainly not after. That and after Ezra's season and Discraft being interested, those losses had far less of an impact in my eyes, as the bar had been set that low by Prodigy after years of the same thing. So low, in fact, that those losses are critiqued far less than, say, Innova, even with them being top talents currently in the sport. And though most truly didn't expect much out of Prodigy, including myself, they still attracted some talent who has plenty of potential in Gavin Rathbun and Jake Hebenheimer. And I'm going to be honest, I absolutely love both of these signings. Both could represent the brand on some lead cards this upcoming season. Followed that up with veterans in both of the carries and went from only sponsoring 2 pros to a roster. And for that, I'm going to give them a C+, if only because their bar was set so low, and for them to return with anything, let alone some talent, bumps that C to a C+ in my eyes. Man, I just can't wait to get roasted for that one.
While you're pissed at Swiss, I'll give you the layup. Yes, we're talking about MVP and the surprise they were able to pull. First, we got to acknowledge not losing anyone. Then, retaining Silva Saarinen for 4 years was huge, having a consistent name in the running for the FPO for seasons to come. She's already showed plenty of promise, even taking down multiple events in Europe. With some more time on tour, I think we'll see a breakout year, and in my opinion, the best chance of taking down Kristen Tatar on a weekend basis. Now for what turned the disc golf world on its head, and no, not in a Drew Gibson tweet type of way. This was an insane move because, remember, Big Germ is everywhere. From commentary, Jomez practice rounds, shit, you look over your shoulder and the guy's right there staring at you. It looks like MVP is buying ad space without actually having to do that. The impact can already be seen from how he's talking up the discs to the amount of views with him in coverage. The gyro movement has been strong in the past couple of years, and this is another strategic piece that will further push the brand into the big 3. Just no one tell Kendrick. With all of these factors, it's got to be an easy A. Still not Discraft level, but closer than anybody else got. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there's Dynamic Discs. We all know at this point that they lost Ricky Wysocki and Kona Panis, 2 players that not too long ago we were praising for the unbelievable contract signing. 3 years later, and they're being told this supposed guaranteed money is, well, not guaranteed, and that they can either take a fatter pay cut than Queso, or they can find a new sponsor, which they both did, because why the hell would you want to stay on a sinking ship? At the end of the day, a business has to do what it takes to survive. However, they did it in a way that kills their public perception. Not sure about you guys, but I haven't heard anyone talking about how much they love Dynamics since before COVID. which sucks because I really like some of their new signings. Truly think Evan Smith will secure a win on tour. Parker Welk previously won the DDO, so connection there. Robert Burge is a legit up-and-comer. Then you got the redemption arc with Macy Valadiaz. I just really hope she was the one to come up with that Justice signature series, and it wasn't them trying to be clever after screwing her over the year prior. Unfortunately, don't think those pickups were able to save them from the chaos they endured. So, with that being said, D+. Still passing.
Much of the anticipation surrounding the offseason heading in was the likelihood of more pros possibly rocking an open bag, allowing retailers like Infinite to expand their sponsorships and exposure onto the Pro Tour. And Infinite were able to attract some quality pieces in Joel Freeman, Nathan Queen, Aiden Scott, and Maria Oliva. Joel Freeman had a slightly down year, but did welcome a new child, and with negotiations failing with Innova, his long-term sponsor, it's kinda understood. His social media presence should be great as he tests and promotes new disc that enters his bag. Queen provides exposure to another fan base and helps out regionally out east also. Aiden Scott is a young talented player who keeps adding tools to his game. All of them justified for the retailer and with a very low risk on top. What is a very solid offseason? Solid enough for a C.
Moving on to Discmania, but sticking with the C grade. It's not a bad thing, but it was just an average offseason. Although re-signing Casey White and Ella Hansen are both solid moves, they were very much expected by almost everyone. They've attached themselves strongly to the brand and at this point feel a part of the company more than anybody else. Are they not the veterans of the squad after all? But yeah, that's all they did, so it's hard for me to justify a higher grade, but by no means do they deserve anything less. Just kinda sums up to a meh. However, for all those not blind to the House of Discs facade and realize they are essentially just one big brand, I'm giving them a C-. Simply because it's hard to decide what to give them since there's so much that happened. Our thought process was no matter what was done, they had to deal with more backlash than good, so C- is the overall grade.
DGA entered this offseason with nearly their entire roster available in free agency, as all but Katrina Allen remained. However, only saw the departure of two of their sponsored players this offseason with Parker Welk and Macy Valadiaz. The loss of Parker might be felt, however, not nearly as much as if stalwarts of the brand in Cole Redallen and Andrew Marweed were to leave, which DGA was able to retain not just one but both. Cole fought through injuries last season but does have a win on tour, and Marweed has been consistently featured on some lead cards and top 10 finishes. Add filling out the remaining roster with very promising young talents in Sully Tipton, Evan Scott, Jake Mon, and Eliezra Midling. You have the makings of a solid offseason. All these young players should continue to take strides as they get more experience on these tour tracks. And rumors of pay cuts aside, they have solidified their roster with plenty of representation and promise for the small manufacturer. Good enough to score a B-.
And that's our grades for all the companies that actually did something this offseason. Let us know what you would have gave everyone in the comments below. We would love to see how your lists compare to our report card. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe as this was our last off-season video. The season is officially upon us and you're not going to want to miss out.